Welcome into this segment of Behind the Pen presented by mostvaluablepodcast.com. If you want to listen to the full podcast, go to blogtalkradio.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Also, we're on iTunes, so check us out there as well. Thank you all for listening as always, and enjoy the show.
This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome in, my friends, to another episode of Behind the Pen. My name is Mike Rankin, and I will be your host for today's show, and I'm by myself. That's cool. I like talking to you guys one-on-one here, let you guys listen in on the inner workings of my brain, and hopefully I entertain you throughout the entire length of this podcast. Not sure how long it's going to be. We'll see. Got plenty on tap for today. Bears, Mariners, and Yankees. That's right. We're talking Major League Baseball. It's 2017, mid-January, pitchers and catchers report. Soon, I hope, early February. I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm excited. I can't wait to get into all of it with you, but before I do, I'm going to talk some necessities here. And if you'd like to stay tuned for the entire length of this podcast without any interruptions, or you're on YouTube and you don't want to wait for the segments to be published, go to blogtalkradio.com/mostvaluablepodcast, find Behind the Pen, and click on the show. And there you go. Full-length podcast for you. We got Primetime Podcast, Fast Break, Onside Kick, football, basketball, college sports. Most Valuable Podcast is your destination for sports conversation, and I am so happy to be here with you guys. Today, I'm going to start with the Chicago Bears, and it's not easy always talking Chicago Bears, especially when they go 3-13 and they're poo, you know. So I'm going to try and go a different approach here because the last few shows that I've done have obviously been a little negative, to say the least. And you have to be, right? With the Chicago Bears, when you go 3-13, you have two of your best players being suspended for PED use. You're going to be a little critical. And there's questions going on around the coaching staff, Dowell Loggins. You know, there's some friction apparently reported. Not sure if it's true. Can't say it's true. But there's a report between Fangio and Fox maybe not being on the same page. There's Fox pretty much running the show over the GM, Ryan Pace, is now going into his third year. It's going to be a critical offseason for the Chicago Bears, especially in the draft specifically. And I'll have much more on that conversation. But we're going to talk on a little lighter note here on today's show because there's some good news. The Chicago Bears have a Pro Bowler. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Howard, the rookie, replaces David Johnson in the Pro Bowl this year, and well deserved to him. Round of applause, Mr. Jordan Howard. Just phenomenal effort this season with the Chicago Bears behind an offensive line that was really pieced together as the season went on due to injury. And, you know, Josh Sitton came in late. Cody Whitehair adjusted to the center position. He was coming in as projected to be a guard, and he played center for pretty much actually every single game. He did phenomenal. It's another guy we should note. I'm going to name some players that stood out to me. In particular, obviously Jordan Howard. I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit, as well as Leonard Floyd, and then some honorable mentions as the conclusion of this segment comes to be, because I have been critical on the Bears, and I hear you guys, I get it, but what else is there to say about this team other than there's a lot of problems? They're a bad football team, and when you watch bad football, you're going to be critical, especially when, for me personally, I was very underwhelmed with the way this season turned out to be. I know I had maybe unrealistic expectations for this club going into this season. I said they would be 10-6 in a wild card. Hey, come at me all you want. I had my reasons. Go back and listen to why I said that. I was all hyped up after this draft, by the way. After the 2016 draft class, I felt like Ryan Pace did a great job of addressing specific needs. I thought he did a great job in free agency. I had faith in Jay Cutler in this offense to be competent. I thought Dowell Loggins could translate well in the first season as offensive coordinator. There were just too many parts of this team that had to go well for them to be good. And 20 guys on injured reserve doesn't help at all. So here we are. I look like a fool, 3-13, but I'm going to continue to talk about the Chicago Bears because that's what I love to do. Hopefully you guys can stick with me throughout. I've been here, guys. I'm here for you. I love the Bears as much as you do. Believe me. And I want to kind of recognize this positive aspect of the Bears because really I remember back in the day, I say early mid-2000s, the Bears really didn't have a running back. They had Thomas Jones, and then after Thomas Jones, they were searching for one. I remember Anthony Thomas as well, but after Thomas Jones, you relied on Cedric Benson. They had guys like Marion Barber, Adrian Peterson, not that Adrian Peterson, who, by the way, Adrian Peterson is inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame along with Brian Urlacher. That happened this week, so that was cool. Shout out Adrian Peterson. But like I'm saying, until the Bears drafted Forte, they really were in kind of running back purgatory for a while. Forte was a godsend. He was a blessing. He was fantastic. Did everything well. The blocking for Forte kind of came later in his Bears career, but he was a phenomenal pass catcher out of the backfield. Had great vision, unbelievable side-to-side skill. I mean, Forte, obviously you guys watched him. Forte was one of the best the Bears have ever had. Now, they hit on Jordan Howard in the 5th round last season. Credit Ryan Pace for taking him in the 5th round. A lot of people said that Jordan Howard was going to be the best pick in this draft for the Bears, and turned out he's in that conversation, if not the answer to that conversation, or the conclusion, I should say. Well, let's talk about Jordan Howard a little bit. Finished the season 2nd in rushing in the entire NFL, behind another rookie, Ezekiel Elliott. Now, is that to anybody's surprise? The Cowboys have the best offensive line in football, and of course, Ezekiel Elliott is an absolute monster, explosive running back. So, holy cow, this is Jordan Howard in the conversation, 2nd in the league, and he did it without getting regular carries until week 4 of the NFL season. Week 4 it took him. Now, to answer the question why it took the Bears that long to recognize Howard as this talent that could be relied on every single game, it's because, and this is a fair assumption, that they really couldn't assume Howard could handle the regular stresses or carries that demands an NFL running back in an NFL season. He's a rookie. I mean, you're going to give him 20, 25, 30 carries a game right away. I mean, that for me is a little unrealistic, no matter how good you are, unless you're Ezekiel Elliott. Obviously, he's an anomaly here. But that's the thinking I have for this coaching staff, and I understand it. And plus, they had confidence in Jeremy Langford and Kadeem Carey. I still think this running back group can still be successful, headed by Jordan Howard, absolutely. So I don't blame him for waiting that long, but the problem I did have is once you did recognize the talent in Howard, you weren't running the ball as much as you should have. Obviously, that was the strength of this team, and that's a discredit to Dowell Loggins. So obviously, that was something bad. Overall, phenomenal job. And what's incredible, too, is he finished with 1,313 rushing yards this year on 252 carries. That's 5.2 yards per carry, ranked 4th in the NFL with a minimum of 100 attempts. Like, that's the requirement. But that's kind of a skewed stat, 4th. He's really 2nd behind, I believe it's LaShawn McCoy, because in yards per carry, 5.2, that's a great number. Because guys like Mike Gillislee, who had 101 attempts compared to Howard's 252, and he's ranked 1, Gillislee was, so, and the same with Bilal Powell. Bilal Powell was 2nd with like 130 carries, something like that. So you get it. Jordan Howard was a monster this season. Now, there are some things that obviously Jordan Howard's going to have to work on. He needs work in the passing game, that's for sure. We saw he had bricks for hands. I mean, he's getting a little better. Not saying that he didn't log any receiving yards this season, but you can't expect him to run a route like, say, Forte did. Obviously, that's the easy example. But out of the backfield, that's something he's got to work on, and that's a value that will just make Jordan Howard so much better in this Bears system. And the Bears are lucky to have him. Also, now, this wasn't as big of a deal, but obviously if you want to stay on the field as a running back, one of the most important things you have to learn how to do is block and recognize blitz schemes and step up in the right gap, pick up your man. You know what I mean? Protect your quarterback. He's going to be on the field, and I think he did an okay job in his rookie season. I really can't complain. So Jordan Howard, absolute stud in his first season. Like I said, took him till week 4 to get regular carries, and he finished 2nd in the league in rushing with 1,313 yards behind Ezekiel Elliott, one of the most efficient running backs in the league. And we saw it. He's strong. He's got some burst. It's just, I love his vision. He's always picking the right holes, and that credit to the offensive line. Guys like Cush and Sitton eventually, Whitehair, and imagine with Kyle Long healthy. And you know what? I bashed Bobby Massey a lot, but he did okay. Right? He was on the field for every single game, along with Charles Leno. So that's something that I can't complain about. Overall, phenomenal stuff. And that's one of the few positives I can take away from the Chicago Bears season. Let me move on, though, to another one. And this is a conversation that was a huge one. A huge point of emphasis going into the 2016 season. It was Leonard Floyd, first-round draft pick, second first-round draft pick Ryan Pace had under his ledger. Now, we know the first one didn't go too well with Kevin White, and it still doesn't look like it's going well given his injury history. I mean, by now you expect him to have more than, 4 or 5 games under his belt. For the guy with 2 seasons, you would expect like 25 games of film, realistically. Or maybe even 20. I mean, that's 10 games per season. As a rookie, a first-round draft pick, you expect more, but, it's the NFL and stuff happens, but nothing from Kevin White so far. And I'm not going to look at Kevin White and say, oh, there's potential there, because I have no idea. He's got to stay on the field and show me. So I'm not looking into any of that anymore. It's like, oh, Kevin White's this all his potential. He's got great hands. Show me. That's all I want. And just stay healthy. But Leonard Floyd looks really good, guys. Really, really good. And when the Bears acquired Leonard Floyd, it wasn't really a traditional, okay, he's on the board, I'm going to take him. The Bears actually traded up 2 spots to grab him above the Giants. Apparently the Giants were interested as well. But my goodness, that was a ballsy move there by Ryan Pace. And to this point, it looks like it's paid off, in my opinion. From what I'm seeing in Leonard Floyd, I see a legitimate first-round defensive starter. And in this front 7, with a healthy front 7, this could be dangerous. And you add Leonard Floyd now, this is like immediately, the questions were, he's undersized. How is he going to beat offensive linemen in the NFL if he's just going to get bottled up? People even went on to say that, oh no, this could be another Shea McClellin. Absolutely, that is not the case. Thank goodness, because my God, that was a disaster. And Shea McClellin, Phil Emery, bad. See you later. But Leonard Floyd, man, good season. Ryan Pace in this postseason press conference said the sky's the limit for Floyd. And this is a direct quote from Pace. He says, his athleticism, his quickness, he's 100 miles per hour to the ball every play. And it's true. We've seen it. He's learned over time how to work his game in the NFL. The way he works his hands, and obviously his speed helps him get around the edge, but he wasn't even a straight edge rusher this season. Right? Vic Fangio had him doing all sorts of different things. He wasn't only lining up an outside linebacker. He was in the middle of the field. It needs some work coverage, obviously. That's something that many young linebackers need work in the NFL, but it's coming. But we see the value in Leonard Floyd is his ability to get to the quarterback, and he's been doing that. He finished with 7 sacks in 12 games. Now, the reason why he played in 12 games was he needs to learn how to keep his head up. Tackling technique is a problem. He suffered 2 concussions last year, and he didn't really have any documented concussion history at Georgia, so that's a good thing. But, I mean, you never know when you get a concussion. You can't really, it's not all of them are going to be documented, so who knows with that. But with those 2 concussions is something, obviously, they're going to have to monitor carefully because whenever it comes to the brain, that's something serious. And the first concussion he had, I thought he was paralyzed. That was very scary. But I'm looking at, in the end, an overall impression from Leonard Floyd in his first season. I was very impressed. I think the game that really stood out to me was, I believe it was that Thursday night. I'm pretty sure they played the Packers on Thursday night. But Leonard Floyd just busted out. And that was one of his best performances, in my opinion. And from then on, he was pretty consistent in what he was able to do. He had another good game against the Giants, that windy game that I believe ended 22-16. The Bears ended up losing. He played well in that one. Still, a lot of standout performances for Leonard Floyd this season, and he was well worth it. He was well worth the 9th overall pick, in my opinion, and I think he's only going to get better. And we talk about the questions regarding his size. It's not going to happen right away. And he did get bigger. He had to get bigger. But there was a noticeable change in his size. I'm not sure what his actual end weight was at the season from the start to the end. You know what I mean? So, there was a noticeable to the eye he was bigger. But that'll come. But what you can't teach, because you can put on weight, right? But what you can't teach is speed. And this guy's got it. And he's impressive. And I'm really enjoying watching this young pass rusher go about his business here in the NFL with the Chicago Bears. That front 7 is going to be nasty sooner rather than later. And that's one of the strengths of the Chicago Bears moving forward. This defense is going to have to be good. Obviously, need playmakers in the secondary. We'll see if they address that in the draft. Is Jamal Adams, maybe. Who knows? I'm excited for what they decide to do. But other honorable mentions, I guess this could be an honorable mention, but he didn't do anything. And I guess this is more of what the hell is going to happen with this guy, and that's Kyle Fuller. Kyle Fuller, yes, as a rookie, stepped up and proved to be one of the more efficient cover corners. Now, he's not even a cover corner, just a straight corner in the NFL. And I say he's not a cover corner because once they transitioned away from that zone scheme, his game took a hit. He was getting beat over and over again, especially one-on-one, man-to-man. That was a problem for Kyle Fuller. And I know I've said this enough before, and you guys understand this. Kyle Fuller suffered that knee injury. However, he just missed all of 2016, and Vic Fangio questioned his toughness, so to speak. And Fuller said, I did everything I could to get back on the field. I just know my body, and it wasn't right. That's fine. That's fine. But your position on the field is at jeopardy, so you better be healthy. You better be ready to compete for a spot next year in either cornerback. Maybe try him out at safety. Maybe, because they don't really have anything there. So that's something to keep in mind, too. So, I mean, the questions about Kyle Fuller. I don't think they should cut him because you might as well just work with what you got, especially drafting him so high. So run with it and see if Fangio can get anything from this guy, and that would be good. Another honorable mention I want to talk about is, and I already mentioned it before, Cody Whitehair. Cody Whitehair, what a phenomenal job he did. Second-round draft pick last year. Just kicked ass at the center position. I'll tell you what, if they decide to bring back Gasu as their starting center, they're idiots, and I know that's not going to happen. But Cody Whitehair proved that he could be their center for years, and that's awesome. Another honorable mention, Cameron Meredith. This guy legitimately established himself as a wide receiver in the NFL, and a pretty darn good one at that. Could be a 2, could be a slot. You don't know yet. They obviously need help at wide receiver. Don't know the future of Alshon Jeffrey. Kevin White's hurt every second of the day, of the week, of the month. And then you have Marquise Wilson, who doesn't know how to walk straight without breaking his foot or something. So there's so many questions at the wide receiver position, but the one mainstay and something you feel comfortable about is Cameron Meredith. So awesome job, Cameron Meredith, stepping up this season and being one of the main guys for Matt Barkley to throw to. Yeah, Matt Barkley, he's not an honorable mention because he sucks. He's bad. Could be a backup, possibly. I'd like to see what Connor Shaw does. Speaking of Connor Shaw, he's got to get healthy. All right, I'm rambling a lot, and you know what? It happens when I talk Bears. I'm sorry, guys. I shouldn't be sorry. I'm talking to you about the Chicago Bears. This is Chicago Bears content, and you can only find it here every week on Behind the Pen. So thank you guys for listening. You guys are truly the best. Thank you guys for sticking around for this segment of Behind the Pen. If you want more most valuable podcast content, click on the video up above, because I don't know why you wouldn't want to keep listening to our voices every day. But again, guys, thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate you.